Hello and welcome to some Little Box of Crochet Technique videos to support our April 2020 box, which is the beautiful crochet socks by Anna Nikopirowicz. Now, if you've had a brief glance through the pattern, you will know that both socks, either the plainer or the lacier versions, are constructed in the same way. That is to say, you're going to start with the toe, then work the instep and sole, a lovely afterthought heel, which is really clever, the leg, and finally the cuff. So I'm going to go through each of those components with you to help you enjoy making these lovely socks. There are differences in how we are going to be working through each component. Some of them are worked in a continuous spiral. Some of them are worked by casting off at the end of each round. But don't worry about that too much. I will cover that as we go through. The other thing is just pay attention to sizing, because there will be different stitch counts to be aware of depending on what size of socks you choose to make. I've got some apologies. Firstly, apologies for the state of my hands because of rigorous hand washing. They are like little paper bags. And of course the obligatory injury. That was some affection from my cat there, so apologies for that. But it wouldn't be a Little Box of Crochet video if I wasn't mangled in some way, would it? So that's that. Also, because obviously everybody in the world is at home, that's no different at my house, so it's a little noisy here, and I apologise in advance if you hear some background guitar playing or that's the Busby, or bellowing from Small. So apologies, but you know, we'll do our best in these unusual times. So let's get going. Regardless of which style you choose, the socks are going to be started with the toe. Now let me show you. Here is one I made earlier, and the toe is, well, it's toe shaped, you can see, and it's really simple. It's made toe shaped by increasing at the same sort of point on every other round, but I'll show you how that works and leave you to it. So let's get going. So I'm going to just be using this hook. I think you will have a different one in your box, but you know, it'll come out the same, so just try not to pay it any mind, people. So I'm going to start off with 11 chains. So I've just got a slip stitch on my hook here, and I'm working in honeysuckle, and I'm going to do 11 chains. 3, 4, I'm doing them quite loosely. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Okay, that's our starting point. I have found, I'm quite heavy-handed, I have found the yarn a little splitty to begin with because of my, like I said, heavy-handedness. I'm sure it won't be a problem with you, but just persevere and you soon get used to it. Okay, so we're going to start by putting 3 double crochet, and this is UK terminology, in the second chain from the hook. So we missed the first chain from the hook, and we're going to put 3 double crochet in that next stitch along. 1, see, splitting it. Honestly, I've made several toes now and I'm still not elegant. 2, 3. Okay, now at this point, Anna asks us to put a green, I think, a green stitch marker. Yes, in the centre of those 3 stitches. Now, just literally by accident, I've got a green safety pin here, and I'm going to use that. The reason that she's specified a colour is purely and simply so that you can identify which is the beginning of the round marker and which is the halfway point. So the green specifies beginning of the round. So whatever you choose to use as a stitch marker, just make a note on your pattern or on a note piece of paper or whatever, that stitch marker indicates beginning of the round. That's all you need to worry about. And you'll need a second stitch marker, a different one, for the halfway point. So we'll talk about that when we get there. So I have just popped a stitch marker on the second of those 3 stitches that I've just made. I'm now going to go along my chain and make 1 double crochet in the next 8 chain. Okay, so you'll have done this before lots of times, because starting crochet projects very often starts by crocheting into a chain. So I'm going to just whiz along, hilarious whiz, that indicates some sort of level of speed that I'm not, to be honest, known for. But let me just go along and I'll see when I've done 8 of those. So there's 2. Right, and this is number 8, 7 and 8. And with a fair wind, and assuming you can count better than me, you should have 1 chain left at the end. And what you're going to do is put 3 double crochet in that end as well, just as we did at the very beginning. We're going to do the same down this end. So 3 double crochet into that last chain. That's 1. That's 2. This is 3. Okay, now we are now asked to put a red stitch marker in this centre stitch, and you won't believe me if I tell you I also found a red one of these, but I did. Okay, it's just a little victory in these trying times. So I'm just going to put that red stitch marker in the centre of the 3 double crochet there. So just to reiterate, it doesn't have to be red, it's just an indicator that this is your halfway point. This doesn't have to be green, it's just an indicator that that is your beginning of round. Choose whatever stitch markers you want to use and make a note. So my beginning of round stitch marker looks like this, my halfway point stitch marker looks like this. That's all you need to worry about. It doesn't need to be green and red at all. Okay then. Right, so now we've done the 3 double crochet at that end of our chain, we are going to turn our chain around, or our work around, because I'm now going to start working back along the chain and putting double crochets in the kind of the underside, or the underneath. Okay, and what that's going to do is create the very end of our toe. So if you look very closely, you can see the little loop of the chain where I've done those most recent 3 double crochet. We're going to ignore that and come along to the next one along. Can you see that? You can see that little loop where there's a double crochet going in, and we're going to work stitches. Whoops, there's the end. You can crochet over that end if you like, why not? We're going to work stitches coming along the other way, and it's 8, isn't it, going along the other way as well. So we're going to just do that. That's 1, and I'm going to just do a couple so you can be sure where we're working. Again, that little loop where the double crochet's gone into on the other side. That's 2 and 3 and so on. 7 and 8. Now that completes round 1, and I'm just going to remove my hook and show you. It's a bit tricky at the moment, but you will see that we haven't joined up, we haven't closed the round at all. Our rounds now start 1 stitch before that marker, before our beginning point marker, 1 stitch before. Okay, so we have completed round 1 and we've got 1 stitch left before the one that's marked by that marker. That's important. Just that's written in the pattern, so just remember that. We're also going to be moving this stitch marker as we work from this point onwards. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take it out, make a stitch and put it straight back in. That's how that's going to work. Okay. Okay then, so we're now on round 2. And we are going to put 2 double crochet into the next stitch. Okay, 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and it's an awkward stitch. Literally the only car that's gone past in days has just gone past. Unbelievable. Never mind. So it's a quite awkward stitch to get to because it's sort of a folded, it's one of the chain that folded back on itself, but there you go. So we're going to put 2 double crochet in there. So no fastening off because we're working in a spiral, and I've just lost that. There we go. We're working in a spiral, so we've not fastened anything off. So that is the beginning of our round 2. 2 double crochet in that stitch. We're now going to put 1 double crochet into the stitch with the marker. So I'm going to take the marker out, make 1 stitch, and then I'm going to put it straight back in again. Okay, just to make sure I am marking the same stitch all the way through. Okay. And now I'm going to put 2 double crochet in the next stitch. So what I'm doing here is increasing the stitch count. How I'm increasing on this particular round is by doing 2 stitches before and 2 stitches after the marked stitch at each end, each side of the toe. Let me show you what I mean. So I've just done my 2 double crochet in there. I'm now going to put 1 double crochet all the way along until I get to 1 stitch before the next marker. So no need to do any counting or anything at this point. Okay, until 1 stitch before. So if I just check my little marker is coming out of that stitch, I've got 1 stitch prior. So this is where I'm going to do an increase. I'm going to put 2 double crochet in there. 1 and 2. Okay, I'm now going to take this marker out, put 1 stitch in there. Always 1 stitch going to go into that marked stitch, always, okay? And I'm going to put the marker back as soon as I've made it. Wow, another car. It's actually comment worthy at this point, isn't that bizarre? Right, so I've taken the marker up, put it into the stitch I've just made, and so now I'm going to make that increase again the other side of the marker, because you're always going to be doing even increases. Okay, so that's 2 stitches there. I'm just going to stop there and explain that again. So if I pull the work out like this, holding on to the marker, the green one being the beginning, the red one being the halfway point, all our increases for the toe take place either side of a marker, either side. Okay, so 1 stitch before you put your increase in there, so 2 double crochet, and 1 stitch after you put your increase in there as well, and do it evenly. I've fallen foul of this more times than I care to count. If you're increasing at one end, please increase at the other. Okay, and that's why it's important to have 2 different stitch markers so you know which is the beginning and which is the halfway point. Else you just go on ad infinitum and just be increasing forever and ever and ever and have a gigantic toe. That is actually what would happen. Right, sorry, so I've made my increase after the red marker on round 2, and now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch along until I get to 1 stitch before the green marker, because if you remember, the green marker, our rounds start 1 stitch before the green marker. And then we will stop and have a little look. Okay, so my last stitch is going into, whoops, into there. It does get a little bit easier as things get a little bit bigger, because it's a bit of a twisty mess at the moment. Right, so you can see, if I hold it up here, I've got 1 more stitch before the marker, and that's my beginning of the round marker, which means I am now at the point where I'm ready to start my next round. So therefore, I've finished round 2. So we're now going to be working on round 3 and then obviously round 4. Now rounds 3 and 4 become our repeat. Rounds 3 and 4 are what we're going to be working until we get the requisite number of stitches for the size of sock that we are making. So round 3 is very, very simple. We're just not going to increase. We're just going to do a straight 4 double crochet in every stitch all the way around. Okay, so my round is beginning 1 stitch before the marker. I'm going to take the marker out, make my stitch in that stitch, put it straight back in, and round I go. One double crochet all the way around, and I'll do the same thing when I get to the other marker, which is to just 1 double crochet and move it. So I'll show you that when I get there. Okay, so working all the way around. I'm now at the halfway point, so I'll take that marker out, work my stitch, and put it back. And carry on. Just 1 double crochet all the way around. And if you remember, our round finishes 1 stitch before the beginning marker. Okay, so last stitch going in there, so that's at the end of round 3. which is a straightforward non-increase round. So it's just putting 1 double crochet in every stitch that is there. Round 4 is an increase round. So if you remember on our kind of setup round, what increase rounds are, is we put 2 double crochet before our green marker or our beginning marker, 1 double crochet in the marker stitch, 2 double crochet after it, and that happens at each side of the toe. So let me go and do that, and then that will be your 2 round repeat that you need to just keep working. So our first round of the repeat is just a simple double crochet in every stitch all the way around, and our second round of the repeat, which is round 4, is an increase round. So here we go. So I'm 1 stitch before my marker here, which means I'm putting 2 double crochet in, 1 and 2. I'm going to put 1 stitch in the marker, always 1 stitch in the marked stitch, so just 1 in there, and put my marker back in. Okay, and now 2 stitches after it. Oh, I've managed somehow to catch that. Let's try that again. That's a problem when you use pins. So 2 stitches in the one after the marker. So what you've got there is your stitch count has increased from 3 to 5 in that little group there. Okay, so in 1 round you will increase your stitch count by 4, because you'll be doing that at each end, won't you? So coming up to the other side of the sock, and we'll do the same thing again. Okay, so I'm 1 stitch before my marked stitch here, so here we go, and we will put 2 double crochet in that stitch because it's an increase. 1 and 2, and then we're going to put 1 in the marked stitch. Place the marker one immediately that we've done it, because else I get terribly confused and put it in the wrong place and it all goes wrong after that. So it's important, keep those stitches marked so you know where to put your increases. And then 2 double crochet the other side of it, and that's your increase round. That's how your increases work. So again, we've gone from 3 stitches in that little cluster on this side of the toe to 5, and I'm going to hammer all the way along, just putting double crochet in every stitch until I get to 1 stitch before my beginning marker, and then that will be the end of the round. Okay, so last stitch, here it is. Okay, so we've completed round 4 there. So the last 2 rounds of that little group that we've done here, rounds 3 and rounds 4, you're going to repeat those 2 rounds as many times as you need to get to the stitch count that you require for the size of sock that you are making. At this point, you should have 30 stitches. Okay, so you will then have to do, however, I mean, each increase will give you 4 extra stitches, won't it? So I worked for my little toe here, this is a 50 stitch toe. I think I worked 5 extra groups of those 2 rounds together. Okay, so that is it. That's all there is to making the toe of the sock. So once you get to the size that you need for whichever pattern you're choosing to make of the socks, whether it's the plainer sock or the lace sock, once you get to this point, we'll have a look at where you go from there.